Welcome back to Vancouver Carpenter. Today I'm going to show you how to install a solid core door and make sure that it doesn't fall off of your wall and that it keeps opening and closing properly for years to come. So if you need to order a door, it's good to know the swing of the door. A general rule of thumb is as you walk into the room, whichever side the hinges are on, so in this case, we're walking into this side, it's going to swing open here. It's a right-hand hung door. All right, next you're going to want to check how plumb is the hinge side of your opening. So as I check right here, it's pretty much dead plumb. A 6-foot level is really beneficial for installing doors. I forgot mine, and the contractor here has all his tools on another job, so we're using the backup level. But I think most of you guys are probably going to be using a 4-foot level to install a door anyways. Most homeowners don't have 6-foot levels. Anyways, this is pretty good, and I would say if anything it kicks out, it kicks in at the bottom, small eighth maybe. So it's going to make this install easier. You're also going to want to see how much room do you actually have. So right here I have 34 small, check the top, 34, 34, 33 and 7/8. Now because the hinge side was very plumb and there wasn't a big difference in measurement on this side, it's going to make it a fairly easy install. Let's check the width of our door now. So I'm going to measure at the top of the door jamb, and I have 33 and 5/8. We have about 3/8 to 1/4 inch of room to hang this door in this rough opening. That's pretty good, especially with a real plumb side to hang the hinges on. The next thing you need to know before hanging your door is what's the floor doing? Does it have a slope? So when we check it right here, we can see that I need to lift the level up about 1/8 of an inch. That means that this side of the floor goes up. So we're going to have to cut this side of the jamb 1/8 shorter than the other side. The next thing you're going to want to do is figure out how much of a gap do you want from your door to the floor. So right now we have 1 inch, and the homeowner has told us that they have about a 1/2 inch rug that they want to fit underneath this door. So that means there's our 1/2 inch. We're going to go for about 3/4 of an inch. So we will mark it right here. There's our 3/4 of an inch mark. So I'm going to transfer this mark over to the top. And now I'm going to check what it is measuring from the top of the jamb. It is 81 and 11/16 small. So when I'm cutting off the bottom of the jamb, I don't measure from the bottom of the jamb. I always measure from the top of the jamb. And the other side of this jamb needs to be 1/8 longer, so it's going to be 81 and 13/16 long. 81 and 13/16 small. I mean, 81 and 13/16 small. Is that right? It is right. See, it's so hard to do the job properly and film a video. It's like crazy. So I like to cut these with a cordless circular saw. It's a nice easy tool to do it with. And you want to make sure that you are resting the motor of the saw on this side, because if I decide to cut it like this, it's really easy for you to accidentally tip the saw and you're going to cut your jamb at an angle. Speaking of an angle, always good to double check that your saw is on 0 before starting your cut. And you want a decently sharp blade because this is a finish cut. Not bad. Okay, we got to flip this door around. Okay, now that I wrote that mark down on the ground, I didn't have to remember it. It is 81 and 13/16 small. Again, measure from the top of the jamb. That way you're measuring from the same point. 81 and 13/16 small. So we can see it's going to be a smaller cut. And make sure you have a nice sharp pencil when doing this. You can take your... If your pencil's not very sharp, You can go like this on both sides real quick. That way you got a nice sharp line to scribe with. Depending on where you got your door from, there will either be a screw or a nail on here, maybe even a couple. So we're going to pull this. That's going to make the door kind of lurch out. Man, heavy doors. Okay, so there is a tool that helps so much for the install of a solid core door. That is the windbag. I've plugged these in videos before. This is not just for the Amazon money, you guys. These things are a lifesaver in so many applications. That's about right. Okay, but before you go screwing this side on, you should definitely check your jamb. So in this case, even though I did my best to figure out my measurements, this side is a bit too long. And I can see it right here. There's a gap there. It's flush there. So as annoying as it is, I got to cut a little more off this side. So we probably need about this much off, and it has to go at an angle. That's going to be good enough no matter what. That's good now. That's perfect. So it is pretty important to make sure that this side isn't too long, because what happens if it's too long, when you install your door plumb on that side, all of a sudden the gap is too big on this side and there's no way to close that up without cutting more off the bottom. So if you've already installed the hinge side, it's a big pain to like fully uninstall the door just to have to cut that down. Trust me, I know it wouldn't be the first time I've done it. The next thing you really need to check before installing the door is how plumb your wall is. So it's pretty close. Really looks like only about a 1/16. And down here, yeah, it's pretty dead plumb. So good job on the framer. That's the person holding the camera. What we're gonna do then is we're going to flush up the outside edge up top, and we'll install the door plumb down the wall, because we need it pretty nice and flush up here so that we're not messing around with the miters come time to case it. Oh, that's good. Right in line with this whole thing. So that makes this pretty easy. I'm just gonna drill one right here. With a really dull drill bit and a really sharp countersink. And a 3-inch screw is necessary for this. So I got a 3-inch number 8 screw. So we got lucky on this one because we don't have to do any shimming. If this rough opening was way out of plumb, we would have to throw some shims in here and then graduate the shims to smaller and smaller down to the bottom. But we got pretty lucky on this one. And I believe it was about the same right here. That went in faster. I wonder if there was a knot under that finger joint pine. Now before I actually send this home, I am gonna check this. And we're pretty good. Solid core doors are less forgiving to being installed out of plumb. Check this, and this is where a 6-foot level would be really handy, but we don't have one. That's pretty good right there. It could come just a littlest bit out, but it doesn't want to. Check right here, make sure it's nice and straight and plumb. And there's a little gap down at the bottom, so we're going to need some shims here. It's such a small gap that we can't even pack the shims all the way through. Usually I like to screw through the shims so that they stay in place. That won't work in this case. Okay, there we go. So it's important to put shims on both sides before you screw it in all the way, because if you have a shim only on this side, it'll twist the door out of square, which will make it have problems closing when you start trying to fasten the other side. Let's check it. Nice and straight and plumb. Yep. Yep. Okay, so sometimes no matter how good of a job you do, it could actually be the jamb itself, or it could be the opening is causing you grief. But we just can't get this line right here, like way down at the bottom here, it's gonna pinch. So as soon as we add a layer of paint there, it's not gonna wanna close properly. But we do have the room to play with on this side right here. So I would like to mention that we did off camera try messing around with shims a little bit to see if that was the issue. It was not. Let's see if that helps. Yep, now we have enough space for paint buildup. Okay, next we're just going to be checking our reveal. So as we can see, it's quite thin on this side, pretty tall on this door. That's just how the door was made. And it's very thin right here. So we're going to be trying to match this all the way down and make it look consistent. Okay, now we're going to drop the shims. No, so what we're doing now is, because there's a big gap right here, we can't just screw into this or it's going to suck the whole thing over, break that. So I'm going pretty close up to the top because we know it's good there. We'll go until it stops moving, drill a hole. And set a screw. Make sure that it's flush with the wall. That's good, right there. Now we're going to close it and eyeball the reveal. And of course, that's much too big. So it's pretty simple. I like to put them pretty close to the strike plate to give it some strength. Let's see how that reveal looks now. That's pretty close. It's a little bit too big, but it often has a tendency to shrink up once it gets screwed over, so I'm going to go with it. The next thing you're going to want to check is what is the jamb doing. So, okay, it's touching right there. That's pretty good right there, and it looks good at the bottom. You don't want to install this leg of the jamb out of skew because it'll be like touching at the bottom, but the top will be out like this. So yeah, you kind of install this one not so much with the level, but with what the door is doing. Okay, let's see what that did. Okay, it's a bit tight. Pull out the shim a little bit and send it home. A couple more cranks should do it. That's good, that's perfect. Okay, and the bottom's pretty close, just needs to come out a tiny bit. Almost there. And what did I say? It needed to be pushed out just a hair. It's probably right about there. I'll check it before I screw it. Could be even a hair more. So we'll just push that, and that's sitting where it wants to. Where'd that other hinge go? Ah, the hinge game. Or the hinge, what am I talking about? Needs more. Needs to come out just a little more. I'm gonna go with that. That's good. Okay, that's pretty much it. So when you close it, it should be the same there as it is down here. That should be the same. And it's time just to cut your hinges. Why do I keep calling the shims hinges? You know why, you guys? Because it's actually really hard to film a video and do a good job at the same time. So like installing a door is actually quite easy, but making a video about installing a door is very difficult. It's actually been surprisingly stressful. But we're almost done. No shims on that side. Well, you guys, that's about it. That is how to install a solid core door. You can use this technique for hollow as well. Hollow is just a lot easier because you're not fighting with the weight of the door. But yeah, this thing's ready for paint. Well, it's ready for trim, which is going to be another video. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you are able to use this video to get some really well installed doors. So thanks for watching Vancouver Carpenter. Till the next one.